All right, family. You already know what time it is. We live with the general. Yes, indeed. We got that fire for you. Won't be no delays. Not at all. We're gonna be talking about Elon Musk attacks Lupita and Nyong for playing Helen of Troy. Now you know damn well Elon Musk, right? Ain't got no business running his mouth about nothing dealing with blackness. You know we got to get on Elon Musk right for that. And so, yeah, it's been controversy, because you know, what we call historical roles. A lot of people, they feel that it shouldn't be racially where other races can play a historical a figure assumed to be a particular race. So if they white, then to inform, that you got the white audience out there that want to see a white actor or a white actress play that role. You see, they don't, and so in the modern times of the past, you last maybe 10 years, you will get you know, a black actor where they've been playing white actors and actresses been playing black roles, and people don't even know they black. And that's the thing to hide the fact that these, the peoples is black. And I'm gonna bring up a clear references that's overwhelmingly black. You see that they have, and people because people don't know their history because they too busy, they trying to be this, that, and the third, and they don't want to be black. They don't know their history, and so Helen of Troy. Now, a lot of people don't know that there's no conclusiveness that the Trojans were not black. Okay, let's deal with that. And there is historical reference that proves that there was blacks in that area and not just a couple. It was, black civilizations that had established themselves all through that area long before any European was there. And so that's got to be clear. Now, as we before we get started, I'll touch on that in a minute. Now, for instance, now this Helen of Troy, it supposedly caused the war. That Paris, who was a prince of Troy, he went, I forget, it wasn't Agamemnon, but his brother, and he had went, I don't know if it was it was where the two princes of Troy went to meet with another Greek king, I guess, in order to sign some treaties in Paris. Ends up, the woman wanted to leave with him, and which was the king's wife. He took the king's wife, the Greek king's wife, and went back to Troy with Paris, and that caused the damn war. What they call the Trojan War. And so, but what we have to be clear about is that they leave a lot of references out, such as Memnon. Now, Memnon was the king of Ethiopia, and I think his father was a prince. His father, but Memnon, who is depicted as an Ethiopian, even by the Greeks, he's depicted as a black man. But yet and still, he was the nephew of the king of Troy, who was what was his name? Priam. Priam, Piram. And so Memnon comes up from Ethiopia to help his uncle defend Troy in that war. Nobody talks about that though. You see, nobody talks about that. And so you're going to have to make that make sense. How is this Ethiopian nephew because his father was Priam's brother, but his mother was a goddess. His mother was a goddess. Memnon's mother was she was the goddess of the dawn. I think her name was what was that goddess name? Eon or something similar to that. So the only physical lineage that he had was his father. His mother was a goddess, but he was depicted as an Ethiopian. So if he was depicted as an Ethiopian and his father was the only physical parent that he had or human parent that he had, where did he get his Ethiopian from? You got to make that make sense. Unless you saying that the goddess was Ethiopian, but yet and still he was depicted as an Ethiopian. And so not only was Memnon king of Ethiopia, but he was also a prince of Troy by his father. He was a prince of Troy, Memnon, the Ethiopian. So there's and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna show you another one. Circe. Circe was the most powerful sorceress in all Greek mythology, and vases depict her as an Ethiopian. You know, I got the vases straight from Greece, dated at around 500 BC, and it showed her depicted as an Ethiopian. And not only does it depict Circe as an Ethiopian, it also depicts Odysseus. That's where you get the Odyssey. And so now let's be clear. Herodotus in his book, the history, states that the names of all the Greek gods came from Egypt. Okay, so we got to be clear that many of these deities in these stories have been whitewashed, just like everything else. Now let me, and I'm gonna deal with that. Now let me show y'all one of the most. This could be proven without no doubt, and I talked about that with y'all a time back, and I'm clearly the only one that keep pushing this narrative about Andromeda. You know, that movie, The Clash of the Titans, clearly, if you don't know your history and they talking about somebody playing Helen or Troy, which there's much evidence that the Trojans were Ethiopians. You see, that the Trojans was Ethiopians. Matter of fact, even when we talk about Herodotus went to Colchis. Now, Colchis is in southern Russia. Today it will be called Georgia. Okay, Georgia, not Georgia in America, Georgia over in the Baltics. You see, it's right above Turkey. It's right above Turkey, right behind the Caucasus Mountains. And in ancient times, it was called Colchis. And one of the kings, his name was Aeetes, which was brother to Circe, who was depicted as an Ethiopian. And Herodotus went to Colchis, and he says that the Colossians are an Egyptian race. And he says, I knew it as soon as I saw them, first not because they were black with woolly hair, but the culture that they was practicing was clearly Egyptian culture. And he said he saw it with his own eyes. So we're not here to dispute. And so that was beyond the Caucasus Mountains. You see, and is that the reason you get the term Black Russia? You see, Black Russia. So, and then when you talk about the early Etruscans and the Phoenicians, who were clearly going all throughout, because, you know, see, they want to talk about the Romans and the Greeks, but why don't they never talk about the Etruscans, Etrusca, you know, who was blood brothers to the Carthaginians. The Carthaginians and the Etruscans were closest of allies because they came from the Phoenician root. And this is where the Greeks and all of them and the Romans get their alphabet and their civilization. They got it from the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, and the Etruscans. So the first people that colonized, even when you go into the Bible, when you talk about Turkey, and that's where Troy would be, that land, according to the Bible, was established by Heth, the Hittites, who were the sons of Canaan, who were always depicted as African people. That's what, and you can go in all these Bible dictionaries, and even you could go into the clearly, because Dr. Ben showed it to me in the Talmud, where he put it in his book, African Origins of Major Western Religions. And you could see in there where they was talking about the curse of Canaan, saying the man had hair was turned into kinks. He was shamefully elongated. This shit came out the Talmud, and that they were called Negroes. This is what the white Jews said about Canaan. And his son was Heth, who established the Hittite Empire, which is modern day Turkey. So, you know, it's clear that Africans was all through there. So for them to pretend like Helen or Troy, and again, that goes back to Memnon, who was the nephew of the king of Troy, Priam. He is actually, not only was he king of Ethiopia, he was also a prince of Troy. Nobody talks about Memnon also being a prince of Troy, who is an Ethiopian. Nah, I'm gonna end with this one just to show you how they totally whitewash, and they always show some shit, Bible videos and movies and shit. Won't even have one black person in it, and it's in Africa. You see what I'm saying? They won't even have. They have all these Neanderthals. Won't even have a fucking suntan. They be, you know what I'm saying, it look like they just walked out a damn cave or something. Now, I'm going to tell you, go look it up, and anybody can get with me if they can prove me wrong, motherfucker. I'll give you $1 million fucking dollars. You understand what I'm saying? And I ain't got it, but I'll bring it down to something that I got. But I tell you what, if you want to bet me, I bet you, and you could prove this to yourself, if you go and study the movie The Clash of the Titans, that movie actually took place in Ethiopia. Could you believe that movie took place? That the king of Ethiopia was Cephas, and the queen of Ethiopia was Cassiopeia, and their daughter was Andromeda. That took place in Ethiopia. You see, she was Andromeda and Perseus, and somehow he fell in love with her, but she had been cursed because her mother Cassiopeia said, my daughter is even more beautiful than the queen of the gods. And Hera was upset about that, and she came to them and said, you know what, for your blasphemy, you gonna have to sacrifice Andromeda. And so that's where they say she said, you gonna have her out there in 2 days. You're gonna tie her, you know, and they show her tied to them rocks, and the Kraken is this monster at the bottom of the ocean gonna come up and eat the princess. But Perseus, being the hero of the movie, he had to figure out a way to destroy the Kraken, and he went to the 3 fates, which are witches, and they gave him the answer, saying that he was going to have to go get the head of Medusa. He chopped it off, and you know, which when Medusa look at anybody, she going to turn it into stone. So when the Kraken came up out of the water, Perseus was on his way back to Ethiopia, and when the Kraken went to try to eat Andromeda, he pulls the head of Medusa out of bag and turns the Kraken into stone. Now, the fact that this whole damn story is taking place in Ethiopia, the only part that didn't take place in Ethiopia is when he had to leave and go to that island, which I believe, I forget the name of the island she was on, Medusa. He had to go to an island and cut the head off, but the rest, the whole story, and they didn't even have one black person in the whole goddamn movie. But see, they trick people because y'all don't read enough, but I'm telling you to go read it. Y'all don't read enough, you would know that that story took place in Ethiopia. And so they do a whole lot of damn movies like that where they in Africa and they won't even show one black face. You see what I'm saying? So Elon Musk rat could go sit his ass down because he ain't nothing but a colonizer, the wretched, no good blood of a colonizer down in South Africa. You know what I'm saying? And so now that the facts is coming out, you know, about so many of ancient civilization being black. See, these motherfucking Neanderthals is getting upset the day where they could just tell somebody, oh, you know, white people created civilization. Them days is over with. You know what I'm saying? We didn't, you know, our master teachers then dug down in scrolls and used their own people and their own scholars against them. And this is what they hate. They think, you know, a lot of people say them Afro, them motherfucker, that we got thousands of Europeans saying the same shit. Matter of fact, they said it first. But you never hear motherfuckers say nothing about them Europeans and Asians, and even down here, even with the Olmecs and shit. They always say, you know, they talk about, well, these Afrocentric motherfucker, your own, the man that dug the shit up said they was African until they got on his head, you know, but, you know, when they first said it, they put the damn dirt back on it. If they thought it was their own people, you think they would put the dirt back on it? When they saw them damn statues, they say, man, put the dirt back on that shit. You know what I'm saying? You can't bring this to the world, but the man had already spoken. They didn't have a dialogue to steal that Olmec civilization. They didn't even have a dialogue. They didn't even know it was there. So they didn't know what to say. And when you catch people in the very beginning, they say a whole lot of shit they wish they didn't say. They said it in the Bible. It was a whole lot of shit. Yeah, they was lying, but it was a whole lot of stuff that they would have changed if they knew that they was going to see the type of niggas in 2026 or Dr. Ben in them time that was studying. They never thought that we would reach that level of scholarship. And so if they did, they would have changed that shit in the Bible, showing that the Egyptians was black. They black in the Bible. You see, they black. In many other books and reference books, all these European Christians and Jews say they black. And and when you bring that shit up, even in the AI, they say, well, you know, they didn't really know all the facts, and you know, they come up with any goddamn thing they can to change the reality. So yeah, you know, it's about time. And maybe, you know, what I just gave in this short video, that people will go and understand that a lot of that Greek history, especially when you start dealing with Troy, that's before Greece. That ain't even during the time of historical Greece. Even to the Greeks, that was like mythology to them. Troy wasn't a time of the ancient Greeks. That was before the Greeks. That shit was before Homer. Homer was the first, you know, fake writer of the Greeks. And he said that this was way before his time. So they didn't actually see it. This was, you know, and when you get to dealing with them ancient stories, they talking about the Ethiopians that was in that land before them. That's why when you get to reading them Greeks, how much reverence they had for the Ethiopians. You know what I'm saying? That when you open up the Iliad, the gods are in Ethiopia having a feast. Did you hear that? I say, damn, man, a lot of, and the scholars, you know, I couldn't believe it. And I went behind the African-centered scholars, and they was saying how much and I went and dug in myself, and it is exactly what the hell they said. The references was right there. Soon as you open up the Iliad, Zeus and Jupiter and all of them is in Ethiopia having a feast. And Homer talks, you know, so with so much reverence, the blameless race. Say they don't have no flaws. They are referred to as the blameless race. So when we get to talking that talk, you know, about who is what, yeah, because y'all depicted them to be white. But many of them ancient stories, and even the Greeks, they don't say nothing about the Africans that was already in the land. That, you know, because them damn Greek temples ain't nothing but Egyptian temples. What the hell? When you look at the fluted column, they're gonna tell you that's a Doric column. You can go right, which is nothing but a fluted column, and you can go right there to Saqqara, the oldest pyramid in Egypt and in the world, 2700 BC. And when you come to Saqqara and you go through the you got that wall that, and you go through the entrance to get into the pyramid field, you go through the door, and but as you walking through the door, it's the oldest colonnade in all of Egypt. They got columns all through there, and you can see the fluted columns damn near 3000 BC, almost 2500, even you might as well just say 3000 years before Greece. But you always hear about this Doric column and this Ionic column, and they got all of that from ancient Egypt. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at a Greek temple, you looking at a miniature Egyptian temple. And the Romans took from the Greek, and they took from the Etruscans, and they took from the Carthaginians. The damn Roman took the damn the ships that the Carthaginians, you know, and they, you know, the Carthaginians allowed them to Tyrene. They allowed them to capture some of them boats, and that's how they re-engineered the Carthaginian ship, and that's how they got it. But they ain't even had no boat. The damn Carthaginians was killing their ass on the Mediterranean Sea. You understand what I'm saying? They had them. The Carthaginians had the most advanced damn ships on the Mediterranean, and so they, how in the hell, everything that they got from the African. And that's why you don't really hear nothing about the Etruscans, because they align themselves with the Carthaginians, and much like the Egyptians, they elaborate tombs where they spent. You don't see that from the Greeks and Romans and them damn northern people. They set their damn bodies on fire. They didn't have no tombs like that. They did not start having no damn tombs until they got in contact with the Egyptian. And the Etruscans had a lot of elaborate paintings on their walls showing how they had, how they were, gonna play out the afterlife. You see, and so many of they practices were very similar to the ancient Egyptians, and I believe they was matriarchal. I believe the Etruscans was matriarchal too. So that language that the Romans got, that come from the Etruscans, which come from, both of them come up out of the Phoenician script, which the Phoenician script come up out of the ancient Egyptian script. The Phoenician script come up out of the Demotic script. That's what it come out of. A form of cursive, ancient Egyptian cursive writing. And the most advanced of their scripts was the hieratic, which is like, where, it's elaborate script. You see what I'm saying? So don't pay the devils no attention. I tell you what, Elon Musk will never get on no goddamn plane. I'll wear that goddamn Neanderthal out. You see what I'm saying? I'll body slam you, Elon Musk. So family, before we get up off of here, y'all live in the flesh, I want you to get on over there. It's up there right now. That's right. Trapped on the Plantation, FBA Tales from the Big House. I know you're mad, but you might as well get glad because it's up there right now. Also, is Jesus the devil? I think my family think I'm the devil. All the ones that believe in Jesus, they say, this nigga here, he didn't put up another one. You know what I'm saying? But I got some facts. So I want you to get on over there, family. Click that link at the top of the chat, and I'll be black. Black power.